Okay, so I have 3 different prints here, and these are basically all of the same thing. They're thigh pieces to the Stormtrooper. And I want to show you the difference in these are the exact same print here, and this is a print by Do3D that I've split apart, so it's a little bit choppy here, but that's okay because I'm only going to be showing you basically this part here. Typically when you get a good print and you purchase a print from Etsy or Do3D or something like that, this is how your print's going to be. Nice thick walls. You can see just how sturdy that looks, just how good that looks. This is how all of my Stormtroopers came, and this is how a lot of free files come if you get a really good free file. What some people on Thingiverse and my mini factory end up doing is they take like a Pepakura file and they convert it into a 3D print file so you can 3D print it. And what typically happens is those prints aren't really all that good when you actually print it. But I'm gonna teach you how to make it a lot better to get close to this, but without actually getting this, because actually this takes a lot of plastic. You can see just how thick that is, and this actually takes a ton of plastic to make. In fact, this thigh piece here probably took about triple the time and triple the plastic that it's going to take to make the final thigh piece that I'm actually making. So these are the Pepakura files that I ended up getting because this wasn't the correct thigh piece. It wasn't shaped right or anything like that, so I wanted something better. And I ended up going on Thingiverse and getting a free file for the Stormtrooper thigh piece. And I've got these printed so far. This is what the original piece ended up looking like printing it regularly. So you can see just how thin that is. It's not 2 walls like this one is. This one has 1 wall and another wall with the infill in between it. This is just 1 wall. That is it. That's how thin, paper thin that is. And it struggled printing that. You can see how this outer wall right here, because it's only 2 layers. In fact, if I hold it up to the light, you can see right through it. Because it messed up on the outer layer here, because it's just hard on your printer to print. So you can take that. I'm going to show you how to take this in the Meshmixer here and actually turn it into this. This is the same exact part right here. See, these 2 are the same exact pieces, this one and that one. And you can see just how much thicker that piece is. Let me flip this one up and I'll hold them side by side so you can see just how much thicker that piece is. So now this one has 2 walls, just like that one. It has 2 walls and it has infill in between the 2 walls. So it's making it a lot sturdier. You can't look up at it at the light and see through it like you can the other one. And it's a lot stronger, a lot better of a file, and it's printing it a lot better. You can see just the print quality in it. It's still not the best print quality, and that could be because of the silk filament that I'm using. And you can actually make this thicker and make the print quality a lot better, but I didn't want to use that much plastic. And you can use this in your everyday life for other stuff too in order to make them thinner. If you want to. If you want to turn something like this into something like this, you can do kind of a reverse thing. So we're going to get on the computer and I'm going to show you how to take a regular Pepakura style file like this, that's typically like this, and turn it into an actually nice file to print that you're going to actually be proud of, and it's actually going to be sturdy enough for you to do something like cosplay, wear around, or something like that. So let's get to it. We're going to switch over to the computer. I'm going to show you on Meshmixer. Alright guys, so we have Meshmixer right here, and this is an absolutely free program that you can download. Just go to your Google, put in Meshmixer, and click on the links. You can find it. It's super easy to do, and I use this for a lot of things to make my prints better, especially since I'm using Thingiverse. If you've been following me for a while, I straighten up a lot of my STL files this way, using this because it's so much easier than anything else. There are other programs that you can use, but I found that this one is the first one that I started using. I started understanding it and stuff, so I really don't use anything else. But you can play around with other ones if you guys want to. There's a whole thing on this on Maker's Muse if you guys want to watch his video. He shows you all sorts of stuff with Meshmixer. It's really cool. He shows you all the different things that it can do. But we're just going to show you how to turn this Papercure style file that's free on Thingiverse into an actual printable, sturdy cosplay piece. So we're going to go to the import here. Now this one is an OBJ file. So you're gonna have to, if it's OBJs like this, and I know a lot of people have asked me how you turn an OBJ into an STL. All you have to do is you have to open up Meshmixer first. You can't just right click on this and open as Meshmixer, or at least I can on mine. You have to just open Meshmixer first, then go to import, and then import your OBJ, and then you can export it down here as an STL. So that's how easy that is. So some stuff on Thingiverse, some people have OBJs, some people have STLs, some people, there's all sorts of different things. If you like STLs, this is just an easy way to convert it. It really is. So we're going to go to this thigh piece here that we're printing currently at the moment. And we're just going to open it. And this is what it looks like. It looks good. Look how thick it looks, how nice it looks. But it's not this great. And this has become a habit of mine. This is kind of something that I do for every print that I get from Thingiverse or my mini factory or something, just so I know for a fact it's going to be a decent print. I go into the edit here. You just click on edit, and then you click on make solid. And I have said this in a video prior to this. We'll get to this in a second. Sometimes you'll have the issue where you'll go in, you'll plane cut a file, and then all of a sudden you open it in Cura or one of your splicers, and you prepare it, you get the STL right, you start to make the G-code, and then you go to check it, and you see that part of it's cut off or part of it's missing or this or that. This clears that up if you do this. If you do this step, you won't ever have that problem. And if you're plane cutting, and I've mentioned this in a prior video too, if you're plane cutting across and you see a blue line go across, that means you're going to have that problem. So make sure that when you open files, this is the first thing I do every time in Meshmixer. Anytime I get a free file, I go up here, I turn solid accuracy all the way up to 512. Well, up to as high as it goes. It's not always 512. Mesh density as high as it'll go. And then up here to solid type, I go to accurate and leave that on automatic. Now when you hit update, it's going to update this entire thing, but it's not going to do a very good job because we left one thing off. We left one thing at 0. Sometimes this is fine, and I've done this 100 times. Sometimes this is fine. Sometimes you just don't need it, and that's why I always do a test print first. Because if you don't need to do this extra step, it doesn't take as long to render, and sometimes you can get away with it. And I think the first test print that I did with this thigh piece, this is all I did first. And it ended up being basically the same. The first ones that I spliced up didn't, parts were missing whenever I created the G-code, or when I went to create the G-code. Parts of it were missing, so I just did this to make it solid, and see how all that stuff is gone. All those spots are filled in. It's accurate. It looks good. But this is going to be super thin. This is going to be that piece that I showed you right here. So what you're going to want to do is come down here, and I go to min thickness, and I pull this up. That third file that I showed you, that third print, that's at 1 millimeter. Right there. So this is your thickness to make it thicker. You can go all the way up to 2 millimeters, but sometimes it's going to mess up the file. It's going to make it all bumpy and all sorts of different stuff. It just depends. You can play around with this and update it, kind of This, when you look at it right here, this is basically what it's going to look like when it prints. And you'll see a difference. And I'll go back and get a screenshot of that last one so I can show you guys the difference in that one compared to this one. You can just tell that it's thicker, it's more accurate, it just looks better. The lip on the other one was pretty jagged and distorted, and when I opened it up in my files, in my splicer to create the G-code, it showed a jagged lip. And that lip is just part of the design that just makes it look more professional and better, so you kind of want that in there. And you don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time using a whole lot of Bondo or using some extra support to try to put behind it. Like anytime that you mess with fiberglass, and some people, when they do cosplay 3D printing stuff, they fill the inside of it with fiberglass, like the inside of a helmet or the inside of your cosplay gear. Fiberglass is heavy. For one, it's hard to mess with. I don't like it. It takes forever. It's sticky. It gets all over the place. If you have to wear a breathing apparatus because you don't want to get the fiberglass in your lungs if you sand it down, and all sorts of different stuff. But if you don't sand it down, you'll be left with jagged pieces a lot of the time. It just sucks. I hate working with fiberglass. Sometimes I like to take Bondo to strengthen pieces up. You guys have seen me do that before if you've been watching this channel for a while. And I'll probably take some Bondo and strengthen even the pieces that I have, just for extra strength, because it is something that's going to be worn around. And compared to the other pieces that I've printed so far for the Stormtrooper, they've been kind of like the example one, that thick. So they're really strong, and they're really put together. And these parts are going on my legs. I've got to do this for the thighs and the ankles, because the thighs and the ankles on the file that I have are incorrect, for the most part. I mean, I could probably fix them if I wanted to, but it's just going to take too much time. And actually, to be honest with you, after wearing the Iron Man suit and having the Iron Man suit just as thick as these, the Iron Man suit is super hot. But the Iron Man suit covers a whole lot more than the Stormtrooper's going to cover. So it's head to toe plastic, unbreathable plastic that's heavy. And I just want to make something lighter. And actually having my legs covered in lighter plastic, in thinner plastic, I think that's going to be a whole lot better for me. So this is going to take a little bit to render, so I'm going to cut out, and then we'll cut right back. You won't even notice it. We'll cut right back into this as soon as this gets done rendering. Alright, here it is rendered. And it looks kind of the same, it does, but it's actually a whole lot thicker and better. If you look real close at it, you can actually tell just how much thicker and better this looks. Now you could just come in here and do what I did for that third example that I showed you. You can just click accept and then go to edit and plane cut this whole thing down to fit yours, or if you've got a big enough one, print it all as one piece. But if you want to see what it looks like thicker than this, and some pieces that you get, this isn't, I'm not making this video so everybody can make a thigh piece for a Stormtrooper. So this is kind of showing you the examples for using this in the future for other files that you may need, that are maybe when you try to make them they're missing parts, so you need to make it solid, or parts that are printing too thin that you need to make them thicker. This is for any print that you want to do like that, and I run into this problem on Thingiverse all the time. In fact, I've had some Do3D prints that I don't think that they were made to be plane cut, and whenever I plane cut them, then it screwed it all up. I had to go in and make each piece solid, and then when I made them solid, it made them too thin, and then I had to go in and do this too. So bought pieces that are not pre-cut for you, anything like that. I mean, I use this process right here a ton. So, and this is probably one thing that I get asked about more than anything else. So I'm just going to do this so I can show you guys on this one. Like I said, it doesn't always happen, not on every one of them. Sometimes you can make them as thick as you want. It's 2 millimeters. But just this piece I couldn't. Sometimes you can make it too thick. So we're just going to hit update on this. and we'll come back and show you what that looks like when it's done. So here it is here, and this actually looks a lot better than it looked the last time, and I think I know what I did differently. The last time I offset the distance a lot more up here, and so it looked like big large chunks inside of here. But this is an actual thicker piece, even thicker than the last one, and this would actually probably be way better. And if I wasn't short on plastic at the moment, I would print you guys one of these off as an example, because this would actually be better. I try to make it probably as thick as I can. I think the 1mm will be fine, but this right here would be a lot stronger and probably a lot better. But that's how you do that. You can play around with this. I'd get Meshmixer and just kind of play around with all this stuff. That's what I did. And then after I started doing this, I thought, you know, maybe I can go online and see if there's any other things that I can do with Meshmixer. I found Maker's Muse's Meshmixer videos and seeing that he kind of breaks some of this stuff down, explains it. So I don't know exactly what a lot of this means. Like, I don't know what the min means. I'm sure that's the minimal thickness. The offset distance is probably your distance between each line. So like as your thing's going, I'm not sure, and I'm wondering if that's why it made big bulges all over the place whenever I did that one last time. Not 100% sure. Now you can look at this and you can see that it's not the smoothest in the world. So this is going to need Bondo. Just that other one is probably going to need more Bondo. The one that I'm currently printing, this one actually looks smoother than the other one. And it turned out looking really good. Look at this here. Look at that lip. It's just straight and great looking. So I don't know, probably should have done this, but I've already started the printing process. So I'll probably do the ankles. It's probably as far as they'll go on minimal thickness. The cool edge threshold, that's at 100. I don't know exactly what that is. That's just its regular setting. I didn't mess with any of the advanced stuff. I'm sure there's ways to make this even better. And if you want to get into this and kind of, you know, start messing around with it, I'd play around with it. Get you some little prints, print off, you know, different thicknesses and stuff to it, and just kind of figure out how to do this. And I'm hoping that this helps somebody else out there who's frustrated, who's getting mad at having weak prints, paper thin weak prints that are just breaking apart really easily, or people that are going on and they're downloading free files from Thingiverse or My Mini Factory, printing them, and then, you know, it's not always your printer and it's not always your filament. A lot of times it's your file, and you know, you can bring it into your splicer all you want, and you can tell it, you know, you can tell your 3D printer how to travel, but if the file's corrupt or the file's messed up or the file, you know, there's just something wrong with it, then it's going to affect the whole way that it prints. And sometimes it can be something as small as printing the entire thing to where it looks good, but it's so paper thin that it just tears apart. And I've seen on the Facebook pages that I've been in, people who are having paper thin problems, or they're printing files from Thingiverse or something, and when they get them off it looks perfect, but all of a sudden they just pull it apart and it just crumbles apart. And that's because of that. I mean, they didn't go in and make it solid, make it a solid piece, and fix any of that before splicing it or anything, or before plane cutting it. You know, they didn't do any of that extra work, and sometimes that'll mess it up. So happy printing, guys. I hope this helps you out and get in the habit of doing stuff like this. I get in the habit of it because I just don't want to waste. I'd rather spend the extra time doing this than waiting on a piece to get done that's maybe a 6 or 7 hour print, only to find out that it's a super weak paper thin print that's just going to fall apart super easy. You know, and sometimes you want the paper thin ones. Maybe you want to save plastic and you're okay with just, you know, there's sometimes that when I'm doing cosplay, I just want I basically just want to print so I can have like an outline, you know, that I can Bondo, and I can, you know, so I have the right dimensions and the right outline and all that different stuff. And I can do everything else with other stuff in the post-production. Then there's some things that you just want more plastic on. You don't want to do that much extra post-processing, and this kind of just helps on that. So anyways, hopefully that helped you guys out. Just hit accept on this and start plane cutting it, you know. and then export it out as STLs right over here, and you can print that and it's going to look good. I kind of wish now that this, and that's part of it too, part of the frustration. And I was talking to somebody through the comments on one of my other prints about how when he started 3D printing, it's all about patience. I mean, he learned so much about patience, and so did I. And I learned where to put those patience. I'd rather spend more time on this part, getting the file right and correct, doing a few little small test prints just to make sure, so I'm not spending hours, and then suddenly printing something after 6 or 7 hours in a ton of wasted plastic that's not correct, and then going in and spending all the extra time on this. I just do it right off the bat. Because even if you get a good one, that's a really good file that's gonna work, that splices up fine, or that something that plane cuts just fine, that goes into your splicer fine, and then prints fine. This doesn't hurt it. It doesn't make it any worse. Like if it's a really good print that's real solid and real smooth and stuff, this actually doesn't happen right here. All this that I'm gonna have to put Bondo on and make smoother, all these little, kind of different parts inside of this. I can't really explain, what all that is, but on really good files, this doesn't mess with it. It just makes it stronger, And you can set it to 1 millimeter. You can set it to 0. Just make some test prints, see what it looks like, and then keep messing around with this. But anyways, hopefully this has been helpful. My name is Bryce Michael RC. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you guys would like, go to the links in the description and follow me on Instagram. And if you feel so generous, go over and support me on Patreon. I really appreciate that. I'll see you guys later. Y'all have a good one.